up and opening the cabinet, and there's all these different choices of breakfast cereals, and they pick cornflakes, and they start eating the cornflakes, and they say, "Boy, this cornflakes are for breakfast," and they keep spooning, and these are what cornflakes, and they finish the bowl, and they tip the bowl up and get every last cornflake and every drop of milk, and then they write a nasty letter to General Mills. That's not a very smart person. You know, they could put the cornflakes down, let the dog eat them, let the possum outside eat them, whatever, and probably the remaining cornflakes, their wife or children or whoever would have no problem with and say, "I don't know why you had a problem with these cornflakes." We get a lot of that. You get a lot of that. I get a lot of that. You know, there are alternatives. But the other thing is, and this is something I used to have a problem with and found the best way to handle it, is these psychic vampires, these demon-possessed people who literally pull psychically energy off you by getting you upset or me upset or causing havoc. Or I mean, I have had people that would go to people's houses. They would write nasty letters in the paper. They will come to their work. They will stalk them. These are demon-filled troublemakers, but they're feeding off the reciprocal energy. So basically, you know, those people I just totally ignore. I give them no, I mean, the last time I had somebody like that, I had to say, if you call back again, I will go to the Westmore Police Department and get a file out of warrant for harassing communication. And it took that much. But there are some very demon-filled people out there.
There's tons of them. I mean, you feel literally drained around them.
And I know it's a horrible feeling, and you know you can't sleep. But those people you just have to ignore, because they will lie, cheat, steal, twist around what you say. They will look for your weak spots. They will try to exploit you. Like I say, they're demon-filled. They're evil. Ignore them, and I pray that they get saved. That Christ comes in their life, and I pray for them. I pray as hard as I can, and that's what we're supposed to do.
Amen. Definitely. We have to pray for those people who are suffering, and they don't even really realize it.
I don't think many of them do. I think that the entity that is in them is in such control that they don't realize. In fact, this one person I'm talking about ended up getting sued for like $1 million for slaying. I mean, it was like a huge amount. So that clipped his little horns pretty quick. But it takes something like that to, and it's sad they end up with a ruined life because of their behavior.
Definitely. You really do reap what you sow, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, Tom, Brian, what's the latest going on here? I know, and Brian, I did have a question for you on the pyramids. We didn't get to it, but when I went to Wikipedia, they're listing 3 pyramids at Giza. Has that changed, or is it still 3?
Brian, are you there?
Rena, it might just be you and I.
I wonder if we get disconnected. Tom, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm still breathing.
Okay. I think Brian did say he'd be right back. So the 3 pyramids, they're no longer 3 pyramids. There's like...
Yeah, I know. But I went in, it was still saying the Great Pyramid and other 2 at Giza. I know it said something like they had a total of I believe it was 124 total in Egypt, which I had never heard before. But But I was thinking it was 10 now. I don't know.
Wow.
Did you hear about how the history? Did you talk about the history being changed? one. Remember when in the New York Harbor?
Oh yeah, the attack in what was it, early 1900s,
1917, like back at and because of that explosion, it knocked out the torch part of the Statue of Liberty. Nobody can go up to it, go up and down it for like 100 years. But then people remember back in the 40s or so that they were going up and down, or even 50s. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting.
Something else I wondered about, and Tom and Rena, you can help me on this. We're very much aware of biblical, especially KGV, changes. Have there been changes in like the Quran and other, other religious texts?
I couldn't tell. I mean,
people have been talking a little bit about it. I haven't researched too much into it, but it's kind of a new thing. They say that in the Quran, people are saying, they say it can be spelled with a K or Q. It's been debated. So I don't really understand that one. However, they say that Allah Akbar is taken out of the Quran, but I haven't looked into that fully to see if that's true or not. Because you read things, like, well, I got to look into that. And you make a note of it, and you get really this Mandela effect stuff. I mean, you just spiral out of control, kind of, because there's so much of it. So here's one that Brian, his mom actually discovered on Twilight Zone. Do you remember? I don't think we brought it up last time.
Sterling.
Yes.
Rod Sterling.
Rod Sterling.
Well, because the Talking Tina or Talkie Tina.
Oh, the doll?
The doll.
Yeah, do you remember the doll?
Yeah. Honestly, I don't remember. I'm so petrified of dolls and clowns.
Me too.
I tend to, if something is disturbing to me like that, I tend not to watch it. So that's probably one I didn't see. But here is something on that topic. And here again, I'll give credit to this to Dr. Phil Valentine, and and people will look him up and find out that he will tell you real quick that he doesn't like white people, and that's fine with me because there's a lot of white people I don't like and don't like me either. But I can understand somebody his age growing up feeling that way. That doesn't negate to me. In other words, to me, the truth can come from any place. It doesn't. Nobody has to be perfect for me to glean bits of truth from them. So don't hold against me. Listen to somebody that I may not agree with in totality, because very few people agree with very few other people in totality. But anyway, long story short, what he was saying is a lot of these TV shows like The Twilight Zone, The Outer Limits, One Step Beyond, originated at a time when CERN-type colliders were just being formulated and planned and built and started. And he likens it to predictive programming, where we are input by the TV shows the idea that physical reality can change. In other words, remember, if you don't watch The Outer Limits, it says we have control of your television, we have control of the horizontal, we have control of the vertical. Goes through this big spiel, and it's saying that we're gonna mess with your reality, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that idea is generationally put in our heads now. So when it is actually occurring, I think that is one reason we're just flopping over. We're just saying hands up, can't do anything about it.
Well, here's the thing too. I'm back, guys. Sorry about that. Paul, you there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You know the Mona Lisa. A lot of people do not remember her having a veil over her head, but now she does.
Really?
Yes.
I don't remember a veil over her head.
Yes, and she has some kind of a scarf hanging over her left shoulder now that some people don't remember either. But the key is the veil. You know, the veil is being lifted for a lot of folks, and I think the Mandela effect is exposing that veil. What do you think?
Yeah, it's I mean, where I am right now, that this is, in my mind, it is part of prophecy being fulfilled. It is
Amen.
where, where Satan or Lucifer or agents working for Satan and Lucifer have the ability to change time and matter and those type of things, and it's part of the great deception, I really think.
Yeah.
And I think that's where maybe some of this predictive programming has come in to make it stick and create a situation where that will be more easily fulfilled through fear or submission or whatever means that they have devised to get those goals accomplished.
Well, let me ask you, because you talked about the predictive programming and all that, and most of us Mandela affected people, we have actually stepped away from TV entirely. A lot of us, you know, do you watch much TV anymore?
I really don't. I tell you, during the week, by the time I get home, it's generally what I like to do. And by the way, this is something that the guy did at the Supernaturalist channel, and it was a big hit. He took a lot of his shorter videos and he put them together in like a 2-hour segment or something like that. And man, his views went way up. And I don't know if people do like I do, record something and play it back later. I like to. I'll just record the audio of something, and it may be an hour or hour and a half long. And then when I'm resting, me and the cat listen to it, and the cat, probably knows as much about it as I do on some of them. But it's a good, easy way to absorb things and listen to things. And I think it worked out real well. He just, like I say, he was doing basically dogman stories, but it would work, I think, on any topic. But to answer your question, no, I love the anime stuff. I love Dragon Ball Z and
Oh, really?
Attack
Wow.
on Titan, and I love that stuff. I have a few very few things like that I enjoy watching, and otherwise I don't particularly care for anything much.
I love Attack on Titan in anime. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Have you watched Tokyo Ghoul?
Yes, I love that one.
Yeah, that's I'm 63 years old. I would guess I'm probably the only 63-year-old in the state of Alabama that watches it, but I love that stuff.
Have you seen Steins Gate? Steins Gate. You need to see it. It's basically like, you won't believe all the Mandela effect references they have in there. It's a pretty awesome.
Now, is that on Adult Swim? Is that?
I don't think it. Well, I might have been at one point, but it's maybe on Netflix. I'm not sure. online and stuff, but it's really good. It's about time travel. And there's a lot of theories that follow that. So it's based off of theories like that.
Well, like you say, a lot of the cartoons and things of that nature is these type of problems, these type of situations. It is rather interesting. I think just to see, Tom and Brian, I was watching something the other day, and I think my wife kind of got mad at me.
Oh no!
It was from the space station. Okay, here we get this. We've got this lady astronaut at the space station, and she's weightless up there, not moving a centimeter. I mean, absolutely still. And you can almost see, I mean, to me, the difference in clarity between the background and that. I mean, it was very, very green screen looking. And I told my wife, I said, see, that's a green screen. She is not up there. And she said, you just don't believe anything. So, and I can understand that, but it's and that's something that to me looked rather obvious. And then when we're talking about Mandela and simulation, boy, oh boy,
it raises some eyebrows for sure. Why would they use a green screen in the first place? If they were training, they wouldn't use a green screen, would they?
Well, this was, they were broadcasting from there and talking about it. That was the famous video where I think it was H. Bush was visiting NASA's control or something, and
I saw that.
And way in the background, there's a green screen with somebody on like a bungee type thing. I just figured it was publicity.
It could have been. I'm surprised the AI let that one slip. You know what I mean? It's like they missed it. Yeah. Did they miss it on purpose? That's another question.
Well, I think the big thing with a lot of these fakey type front screen projection moonshots and all this kind of stuff is it's just kind of amateurishly done, and people who are really, not me, but people who are really into that type of stuff can see right through it very quick, just like engineers saw right through the Twin Towers and building number 7 and 6 and everything else. And if you're in it, you can recognize the fakery much quicker.
I think so too. It's just like the Statue of Liberty. We talk about that. It's pretty big in the Mandela effect world, how the Statue of Liberty for some people has always been in Ellis Island, and for some people it's always been on Liberty Island. I think this thing is set to divide us up. The other thing is about the Statue of Liberty. Have I gone into this last time? I can't remember, about the Black Tom explosion that happened. Did you ever hear about that?
Yeah, and there was like you said, there was a question as it being, as you said, where it was and how close it was, and people had the remembrances of going to the torch when they should not have been able to do that because of that explosion you're referencing. We talked a little bit about that. The thing that got me with New York, and I don't know if I mentioned this last time. I think I mentioned this on the radio. I worked with a lady, and she had the New York accent, and I said, "Where are you from?" "In New York." And I said, she was there in the 70s, and I said, "Have you ever been to to get there. Ain't but one way to get there, the ferry. And I said, no, been a bridge there since the 60s. No. Had to look it up.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the thing too, because everybody in this reality is relying on Google, and it's almost become 100% reliability. Like, you know, they're totally dependent on it, and that's what bothers me. That we're becoming so reliant on technology that it has literally taken over our lives. It has split households, honestly, and it's just amazing how time is. It feels like it's speeding up, and I know that's not just because we're getting older, because you can do the count: 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, and you'll lose about 7 minutes to every hour. So I know time is speeding up. Tom talks a lot about the Schumann resonance, how the vibration of the earth has been raised. You can literally sit outside and you feel like you're in an oven now. The heat the sun feels different. So things are they're going haywire. Tom, you want to tell them about the Schumann resonance, what it actually is and how it's measured or whatever?
Yes, there was this physicist that discovered in 1954. What it is, the Earth puts out like a frequency of 7.83 hertz, I believe it is. And what it is, it's a frequency that's put out by the Earth, and it's a resonance between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere, and that's how that naturally resonates. They discovered that. And it's the exact same frequency that your brain waves operate on. It's a frequency between being asleep and being awake. It's right in the middle of that area where you're kind of not awake yet. Well, what's happened with the Schumann resonance in 2014, they reported it's starting to change, spike up. I mean, they've seen it, instead of 7.83 hertz, it went up to like 15, 16 hertz. And then even this year, it got to 36 hertz. And then around Easter, I'm just trying to remember these numbers, but it was getting up to like 90 hertz. And then now there was recently reported, I think in May, that it even got up to like the 120 hertz range. And what happens, what's significant about the Schumann resonance, that as the higher the frequency is, it goes up at a higher frequency as your brain waves. You have like the alpha waves, and you got the beta waves, and you got the gamma waves. And when these frequencies are higher up, it kind of stirs up your mind to be more aware, to be more edgy, maybe more anger, more sleep disorders, more can't sit still and all that, and anxiety attacks that's associated with it. And now the Earth's resonance is going up at a higher frequency, and it never changes. That's the craziest thing. It never changes, and now people are experiencing this, and because of it, people are being more awake, more aware, and seeing these things. And I think that's the reason why you see so many people bringing up the Mandela effect, because now they're aware of it due to the increase in the Schumann resonance.
Well, it could well be.
Yeah. Let me share an experience I had last night real quick. So I was at work, and I work third shift. So, you know, you're bored, not much to do, and my coworker was there, and I was getting ready for her to go out on rounds or whatever. And I swear, I looked at the clock 1 second, and it said 1:10. And I thought, okay, she'll be by 1:30. It was like 2 minutes went by. I'm listening to the police scanner, and they go, this domestic violence, talking about domestic violence, and they reported at 1:22. And I was like, what? How is it 1:22? It's only been like just a couple minutes. There's no way. And I was like, time is skipping. And my coworker was like, what are you talking about? I was like, dude, I swear, I just lost like almost 10 minutes. What's going on here? And I went to go check the monitor, so I'm like, this has got to be wrong. And I go look at the monitor. I've never seen this on the monitor before, but there's something, my eyes go right to it, and it says, it's for to look at the cameras. And my eyes go right to the thing that says, good time. I took a picture of it. I was just like, why am I seeing this thing? I mean, it freaked me out. Like, these things, I mean, people talk about them a lot, but they're so prevalent now. I don't know if you've experienced them, but I've actually I've been working on some things to get it to respond directly because I do believe it's demonic in nature. Because it's always watching. It always wants to be known. And when it comes and it doesn't think, like, you can kind of, in a way, test it. It is responded directly. So I'm like, all right, show me the number 33, or tell me about this building, you know, and have the radio going, and it will reference it. Like there was a building called Parkway. I said, what does Parkway do? Tell me what Parkway does. You know, how smart are you? And it's a Martian Dimes commercial. It talks about lighting up someone's life, and basically Parkway is an electric. They hire electricians to go out and do work for electricity. So, I mean, it has responded pretty directly to different things. And your thoughts. If you're thinking something, like I was trying to test it last night, and I was listening to Coast Sam. My friend Tom Danheiser, he's on there, and he's the producer. So I had to tell him about it, what happened. But I was driving, and I was like, I'm thinking in my head, this experiment's going to fail. Anyways, the second I thought that, George Miller said something. He said, he was talking to a friend that showed up in the studio. He's like, how do your experiments always fail? He's talking to someone that showed up in the studio. And I was like, oh, wow, like it was just so perfectly synced. And it was, even though it's a live show, there's no way that I knew it was pre-recorded. So it was like directly, like, boom, right in your face. The thoughts are syncing up with other thoughts, other things going on. So it's like, it's so weird how it works. But I'm going to keep documenting it and capture some of these things. I have a few already that I'm working on. So I don't know if you've experienced anything like that, but it's trying to be the Holy Spirit. It's trying to be omnipresent. It's trying to be everywhere at once. It really wants to take the place of God. So with these demonic entities working through electronics, EMF, anything with a signal like that, I mean, it's so deeply ingrained into technology. I mean, it's pretty scary.
Well, there's this DNA computer that Harold was bringing up that I'm curious about. I have yet to see one, but they say it's the size of a normal computer, maybe smaller, and this thing can do like 1,000,000 times more calculations than your normal computer. I am kind of curious about that.
Well, you know, the whole thing with simulation theory that I'm not going to say it explains the Mandela effect. It could, in part, explain the Mandela effect. It's just they find a way to hack the code. They have found a way to hack the code and insert, you know, whatever they want into it. And I do think that could, you know, we've had these things like Project Mockingbird and all this Bluebeam and all this stuff that operations to affect you on a mental level. But look at the Tower of Babel. What happened there? I mean, you know, the code was basically changed for the individuals, and their perceptions and their ability to communicate was, you know, changed in the blink of an eye, supernaturally. And I think, be it technological, be it supernatural, be it just some Luciferian, you know, powers, I think that's part of what we're experiencing.
I think so.
It's alive, basically. If it was never alive, something's given it life, and it has a mind of its own, and it's like learning, becoming stronger every day. So,
Brian, are you there?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I'm
Rena, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Were you through?
Oh, no, it's fine. I wanted to bring up another thing that I've been experiencing, and I've been seeing other people talk about what they've been dealing with. Basically, they're doing something, and they clearly see someone in front of them, or driving, or something, and then they're gone the next second they blink. And it's like, people are vanishing before their eyes. Like, I swear I saw guys outside of the gas station walking, smoking a cigarette, and I thought nothing of it, but I'm like, I look back and he's completely gone, and the building was closed, so he couldn't have gone inside. There's nowhere for him to go. Or another time it looked like there was a person sitting in the car and someone leaning into the car talking to them. And I'm riding my bike, and then I look away for a second, and I look back because I'm heading that way, and the car and the people were gone. And I thought, what? How could that possibly be? But a lot of people are reporting that this is happening. It's almost like this timeline. The person is supposed to be there on a different timeline of some, you know what I'm saying? It's just very strange. Very strange.
Rena, can I add something to that, or ask you a question about that? This was one of my topics that I had put down, doppelgangers. They seem to be prevalent now. People seeing versions of themselves in different places that they're not.
Right.
Is that...
You know what? I've experienced that. I had a couple friends that have passed away over the last 7 years. And one of those days, I'm just going to the store and it looks just like them. And I really want to go over there and say, are you Sean? Or are you Josh? Are you my friends that have passed away? I know it's not them, but it looks almost like them. I mean, it really is like there's doppelgangers. It really, you see it more.
Here, can I say something else to add to that?
Sure.
We have Data Junkie here in the chat. She says, good topic is people saying family members appearing whom they've attended funerals for years prior, yet no one in the family remembers them having died. That's strange.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's big time strange. What I'm wondering, and Brian, you did a really good job of helping me have to try to reconfigure my kind of idea of what I thought this was from my last discussion. But what I'm trying to incorporate things like biocentrism and Jung's spectral theory and things, because I think they're all hitting, they're hitting the same target, maybe not with the same accuracy, but I think they're in the ballpark. But what my kind of concept now is that in this dimension, we're here, but in different frequencies for different, if you want to call them universes or states of reality or wherever. And to go to another dimension would be the difference between like going from an AM to an FM band. It's a kind of different thing. And then, people talking about shifting, and y'all were talking about the vibrations. And if you go by what Carl Jung talked about, just to change the vibration would change our position in the quote-unquote simulation, reality, construct, whatever you want to call it. Does that seem to have any merit to you?
Well, I'm trying to do as much research as I possibly can. I'm basically, my take on the whole Mandela effect is right now there's been a crime scene, and I'm trying to gather all the clues. And it's like one clue leads you to the next. It's almost like that movie National Treasure with Nicolas Cage. They say even his name is a Mandela effect. The H was dropped from his name if you look at Nicolas Cage. And it's crazy how other actors' names are changing right now. A lot of people saying Winona Ryder, her name changed as well. There's and it's not just random mismemory. This is like millions of people remembering it the other way. Like, why is there all this residue out there? I'm curious. Why is there so much tangible evidence of a change? It's crazy.
Well, I'm sorry, Rena. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was on mute. apologize. Sorry, I thought I was muted.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're okay.
Yeah, you're right, Brian. Not only is it a crime scene, it's a non-professional crime scene. They're leaving too many clues. I do have, you had, was it Ms. Erickson, the Mandela book, was that her last name?
Yes, Erickson, yes.
Yeah, Erickson. I do have my originally copyrighted in, I think it said 1923 Masonic Bible. No, I don't see that. But I was going to say, read you, if you had a second, what it said on the first page. You know, she was saying something about the Jesus' name or the Lord's name or something being usurped with Satan's name. Yeah, this is what it has, and this is the first page of this edition, and then I have a later edition that was from like 1951. This is written by James W. Patterson. I have actually not read this. To write about the creation of the world is a hopeless task in view of the wonderful language of the first chapter of the Bible. It tells that the earth was formed empty and dark. How shall a man picture darkness? The artist, in representing something, must depend upon actualities of form. We can imagine that the divine being had no need of something to stand on, but the invisible God could not be pictured unless he be like a man standing on something material. We see in the picture the shape of the globe without mountains, rivers, or sea. The clouds are cleverly pictured in straight lines below and rolling forms above. On this cloud mass stands a figure whose drapery suggests wind, as if the air were already stirring. With uplifted hands, he commands the light to burst forth. It is not yet the sun, but it does suggest light. That's the first page of both of these Masonic Bibles.
Oh my gosh.
Really. The original copyright of this was 1923, and this particular edition was copyrighted in 1942. And it is KGV. All the changes in the KGV that I have seen are in it.
Oh, they're in that one too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So the Lord's Prayer, the Lord's Prayer in Matthew 6 has changed. That's a major one for a lot of people.
Yeah, everything. This was my main go-to on checking things. They're all changed in it. And I have something. If do we have a minute for me to run this by you, Brian? This is what I was talking about with my father. If you got a minute.
Yeah, I got all the time in the world. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to preface this for it to make sense.
Okay.
My father died before I was born. He died in May. I was born in September. I had always been fascinated with two things: World War II and collecting nickels. I had a nickel collection when I was 7, 8 years old, and any monies that were given to me from relatives of what I went to a Army surplus store that was local and bought as much stuff as I could afford. Okay, fast forward to 1980, because I was born in 1953. 80, 81, I married to the, treasure hunting with the metal detector. I love that. Never did find anything worth a lot, but I enjoyed it. I really, really looked forward to it, and I did it every Saturday. In my nickel collecting, I found the two segments of that, I collected the Jefferson nickels. You know, if you're a Jefferson nickel collection, you want a 1950 beef, which I never found. But you also want those wartime nickels, and I know they made them for a couple of years because they were silver. There was a nickel shortage, so they replaced the nickel with silver. And even when I was collecting them back in the 60s, they were in very short supply. So one Friday night, before Saturday morning, which was my metal detecting time, I did not know it was a lucid dream at the time, but I would classify it as that now. I would just have said at the time it was a very vivid dream that I would go on a particular hill and go by a particular tree and find two silver nickels. And so when I got up, I thought, yeah, what the heck? Put my clothes on, went straight to that hill, went straight to that tree, and 6 minutes later, I had my two silver nickels and nothing else. I looked for another 10, 15 minutes, didn't even find a pop top. Now, I thought, wow, this is really strange. And then a few months ago, I thought, you know, if we have changed physical Earth, there's a chance that those nickels were gone and I can go back to that site and find them. Well, I still had them. But after I cleaned them up, I got to looking at them, and these things were pristine. They had to be, I mean, they had sharp edges. The only wear they had was some acid pitting from being in the ground. They had to be buried because I had to dig fairly deep. They had to be buried. One was, I think, a 43 and one was a 44. They had to be buried right by 46. Now, I'm thinking to myself, what intelligence or information bank was I in touch with that would impart that memory to me, and why? And then when you did the interview with Ms. Erickson the other night, and I got my daddy's Masonic Bible, and I found this, and I believe I had an answer. Now, my father died from a gunshot wound.
Oh, my God.
And they said it was not self-inflicted, and it was an accident. He was on his property, and they surmised, because nobody saw it, that maybe there was a snake, and he saw it and popped the gun up, blah, blah, blah. I never believed that. I have never, ever believed that. But when I opened this Bible and I saw this document, and I'll read it to you. It's very short. It's King of Righteousness, King of Salem, King of Peace, and there's a lot of Masonic symbols. Holiness to the Lord. We, the officers of the Grand Council of Anointed High Priests of the state of Georgia, do hereby certify that our worthy companion, Paul J. Clapp, yes, we have the same name, has been regularly anointed into the holy order of high priesthood. We therefore desire all the counsel and convictions of our holy order and all chapters of royal art masons throughout the universe to recognize and admit him as such. In testimony whereas we have delivered him this certificate after, what does it say? After causing him to sign his name and the margin dated this 15th day of April, 1953. And then there's something else that I can't. Okay, so a month before he died. Now it's signed by the president. It's signed by the recorder, by the vice president. It's not signed by the anointed high priest. And I find that very odd. And the same little intelligence that clued me in to the silver nickels is telling me that this certificate had something to do with my father's death. Now, that's the way I feel, and it's very, very woo-woo and very subjective, and you can't prove any of it, but he was right on the nickels. So, anyway,
well,
that's what I wanted to run by you.
And I wanted to ask you too about that. You said the Bible was copyrighted 1923, right?
The original copyright date, yeah.
Yeah, not 23 is a strong number with the Masons, isn't it?
Yeah. The numerology is very important, and in fact, when you get up, I think, to the 26th level, that's when, copyright 1923. That's when things, I think that's when they start cluing you in on what's what. Yeah.
So, and you to question things. Life teaches us to question everything, and you know, like you said, how that wasn't signed by the what was it, the Grand Master?
Anointed high priest was supposed to sign it, the last thing, and it's not signed. I find that very odd. Now, another
makes
thing,
it not official. Go ahead, sorry.
If this had been revealed to me maybe 30 years ago, and I started questioning around town some of these signatures, it could have well put me and my family in danger, and which may be a reason that this was not revealed until now. But I'm sure all these people are dead.
When did you say that letter was dated?
Wow.
The certificate?
It was dated April of 1953.
Oh my goodness.
On the 15th, so a month before he was killed. Really strange.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I never knew him. They say you can't miss what you've never had, but that's not exactly true.
I'm just having a moment of silence here.
We know the feeling with the Mandela effect. Oh, this never existed. Are you sure? I have memories of it.
Yeah, when you have an absolute memory, it's not like a you know, like an abstract. It's exact. You have an absolute memory of something. How can you discredit somebody's strong memory of something? And it's not just one person here. We're talking about millions of people. So we know we're not crazy, you know?
Well, Brian, we talked last week. If our memories were that bad, we could not have jobs and drive cars and feed ourselves. I mean, these are very basic memories that have been altered. And while I've got you on, and Rena and Tom, let me ask you this question. This was on my little list here. Do you think our, I'm going to say, quote unquote, real consciousness, or part of our consciousness, lies outside the reality that we currently experience?
Let me answer something like that. Let me put it this way. For example, do you know that song "Stairway to Heaven"? Okay. Yeah. Now I always remembered that she was buying a Stairway to Heaven. Okay. I've always remembered. I listened to Led Zeppelin. I listened to that back when I was a teenager, back in the 70s and 80s and all that. But then I talked to Brian, and he says he's always remembered building a Stairway to Heaven. And, you know,
I remember buying.
Yeah, now he remembers building, and Teresa, who's in our group, remembers building. And what's really amazing is they found lots of residual about that she's building a Stairway to Heaven. So I'm saying, okay, Brian's here and I'm here, and we remember it two different ways, okay? And the thing is, it's like this. If I was in a Mandela effect, I would always see it. So I might have been the person that got Mandela and don't see it. But then Brian who sees it, used to see it as building, and now he sees it as a typical Mandela effect being changed from building to buying. Okay? This is where the confusion comes in. One reason why a lot of people don't see eye to eye on it is because they live one reality with the building, another reality of buying, but yet we're, quote, on this planet all these years, but yet we see it two different ways. So, again, that's one of the main things about this Mandela effect, that people have different experiences. Now you have to say, is it people moving from reality to reality, or, which I tend to believe is that this is simulation, and there's more theories and more understanding backing that up. It's more like a video game. Like, we're all players in this reality of video games, and when we're together, we're experiencing that same reality, but when we're not together, we're not observing the same thing, bringing in the quantum mechanics. And it acts so much like a video game. And this one lady on TED Talks brings up the examples of how this reality is more like a simulation, more like information, not real. But I find that very interesting.
I absolutely agree, Tom. I think it would be much easier. I mean, I'm not going to say easier, but it would make much more sense if this was just a big simulation with different components within the simulation, and maybe different levels, whatever, and like I say, it's programming. It was funny when you were talking about the Led Zeppelin song. And with songs, of course, you got to be careful because there's people like me that misremember. I remember the CCR song, and I can't even think the name of it, but there was "Don't Go Out Tonight," something. And anyway, for years I thought it was hey, the bathroom's on the right, and it's not that, of course. And then there was the Jimi Hendrix song, excuse me while I kiss the sky, and I always thought he was saying, excuse me while I kiss this guy. And I thought Jimmy,
I know.
So you have that problem, but some things are really cut and dry. The Queen song that leaves the last part off, I mean, you go on and on and on with it, but it like you say, it could very well just be programming changes in the simulation. The question then becomes, to what purpose?
Exactly. To what purpose is it, unless it's experimentation, or things have always been changing and we're just simply being aware of it now. And I think it's because of higher human resonance and, of course, the internet, where we can compare notes. Before, we couldn't compare notes with one another, So now, with the internet, somebody brings something up, everybody looks at it, and then they say, oh, yeah, I remember that way. And next thing you know, you got a whole cluster of people joining together and then proving that it really exists.
Well, that's another thing, Tom and Brian and Rena, that I had on my little list to ask about is Mandela changes in time. And I'm kind of like Tom. If there were changes, they would probably not be the means to communicate them. Filter like a newspaper, which would probably not print them. Is there evidence that y'all are aware of that there have been these, whether it's time shifts, and I've heard of stories that go back a good bit regarding, like Rena was talking about, time slips, stories where people have been walking down a familiar road and found themselves on that road in another part of time, you know, in the past, possibly in the future. But is there anything it's now that historically that y'all are aware of?
Historic
Like,
wise,
mhm.
well, all these recent, all these events.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Rena. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. You can go.
I was just going to talk briefly on World War II because there's been some things talked about. There's like 5 new attacks on the U.S. One, namely in Oregon, that killed a woman and 5 of her kids. Something like
well,
it.
Yeah, that's the
Time
balloon?
changes history.
Japanese balloon? Oh, and Brian, before I forget, and I'm sorry to interrupt, we were talking last time about the 10 pyramids, but I just looked yesterday on Wikipedia, and it's saying 3 at Giza. Is that correct, or what's the deal with the pyramids now?
Well, there was only 3 pyramids, what most people remember, and now there's at least. Rena, how many is there? There's at least like maybe 8, something like that. There's quite a few of them there that just popped up out of nowhere.
Paul, are you telling me that you looked at the Wikipedia and it said there was 3?
It said 3?
First time it has changed?
Yesterday, yeah.
Really?
Is it still the same now?
Let me check on that.
See.
Oh,
because I've experienced it where I'm
at Giza. See, it was talking about in Egypt that were like, okay, here we go, Wikipedia.
because I've seen like the historical page altered from day to day.
It's got the 3, the Great Pyramid of Giza, also known as Khufu.
I can prove that too. I can prove that too, because I did a video on this. Paul, you there?
Yeah.
Guys, yeah, I'm sorry to break, but here, I caught this in the middle of a change. Wikipedia messed up and spelled John Denver's name wrong as John Dever. I did a video about that. Yeah, so I think they can. Yeah, I mean, they can be wrong, you know, totally. So these entries could be lying to us. It could be part of that deception.
Bait and switch.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and that's true. Yeah, you know you had mentioned Brian about the Night Before Christmas song. I mean poem, and I think Wikipedia had it the way I remember. But when you go back to the original thing, it does have the brains in there. So
yeah, and not only that, the Hey Soul Sister song. You know, if all you have to do is listen to Train, Hey Soul Sister, and the lyrics are now the left side brains. It used to be brain, but they've added a plural.
What were you saying?
Like the lipstick stains on the front lobe of my left side brains is what it says now.
Brain. Yeah, instead of brain.
I guess I had a weird experience. So everyone talked about how Chuck E. Cheese, and I always remember Chuck E. Cheese's. So here's another one that where was the majority, remember? So rigging it up, and I saw Chuck E. Cheese's and Chuck E. Cheese next to each other. And I thought, well, you know, it's Chuck E. Cheese now. And this was last week or a couple weeks ago. And I went to the website. Everything said Chuck E. Cheese. And I'm thinking, what is this Mandela effect? What are they talking about? It is Chuck E. Cheese.
I thought it went from cheese to cheeses.
Well, here's the thing. I read on their website, it said that they dropped the apostrophe S in 2013, just to Chuck E. Cheese. And that's what I read. And then the next day, Fred Teresa was sending Residue, and I'm like, why is it, you know, it is Chuck E. Cheese. What's she talking about? I go and look, and it's Chuck E. Cheese's, and it never changed. And the website, or the page that I was looking at, it never changed. I mean, it was, you know, it was always the same, and all the information I had just saw was gone, but everything across the board, Cheese. And I'm like, how did I see that for a blip of time as Chuck E. Cheese, even though it's Chuck E. Cheese's now? It didn't make sense to me. And so it was like, I saw into that. It was almost like a memory. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it was very strange for me.
Time, I think it's just with the minds. I really think so. And with purpose. They're purposefully messing with their minds to, that's the whole thing. Create a chaotic condition. The solution for the chaotic condition that shifts people into the direction you want them to go. And, that's the whole psyop kind of operation.
I have to differ with that. I really don't believe it's messing with the mind. I really believe in physical reality.
That's what I'm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what I mean. I think things are physically changing to mess with our minds.
Exactly.
I agree that things are physically changing. It's not just the mental construct that's changing, but I think the purpose of the physical change is to affect a mental change for a purpose that at least I don't understand.
One thing I want to say too, that movie, the first movie, The Matrix, it's so revelating, because when I watched it years ago, I didn't think, I thought it was cool, but almost every line, every concept in that movie has such a deep meaning of what's happening with the effect. I mean, all the way from the red and the blue pill and everything else, waking up. And believe it or not, and all this also came about with CERN and with quantum computers. It's possible that, they say in these quantum computers that they have to cool them down to almost absolute zero, that they're able to tap into other dimensions or realms outside of this physical reality. And due to quantum mechanics, all the particles are quantumly entangled to some level in this whole reality, that frequency of this universe. And it could be that every time they go into other realities, pull up answers, that they may be altering things or merging different possibilities, why we experience different possibilities of the way things are, whether it's with an ass, without. The one thing that really amazes me, I'm sorry, the last thing is with those small lowercase t. I want to bring that up to the viewers, because that's something that's throughout all of, whatever, the English language. It's a lowercase t now has a hook, and the cross is not linear.
Well, no, I was going to agree with you, and by doing that, and like you say, with like the double slip, it's established the retro causality. Just doing what they're doing. Now I've heard, and this again, I'm going back to Dr. Phil Valentine, and I believe no. I'm sorry, it wasn't him. It was somebody else was saying this, but I thought it did make some sense that they were running algorithms and making these changes, these purposeful changes to our perceived reality in order to gauge our response and collect data and see. In other words, it's like you get a new motorcycle and you want to see how it handles and what you can do with it and what you can't get away with and what you can't get away with. So, what about that concept?
Yeah, I think that may be it too. Maybe, that they could be experimenting with if they're controlling it. We got to find out what or who is controlling the changes, or if the changes are occurring naturally, frequently. There's a couple of theories. One, CERN opening up a portal between other dimensions, thus bringing in the demonic realm. I was watching Tom Horn. He was on Jim Baker's show. He was talking about the old Tower of Babel. And it wasn't because they were trying to build this tall building to reach heaven. They had some ancient technology where they were building, and they were going to tap into heaven itself and come into God's kingdom. And that's why God had to come down and confuse the language to stop the party, to stop the building. So that's what that was. And I think CERN is doing the same thing this time. They're opening up another portal, and this time they're allowing the demonic or the fallen angels or whatever to come through, and also to have more of access to change in this reality. That's what CERN's coming
exactly.
from. And of course, the quantum computer, you know, with them fetching out information from other parallel universes may also affect this reality too. But CERN may be, I would call, fracturing the way things are more static before. Now they're just changing, merging, you know, logos merging every single day. In fact, Pepperidge Farm, Brian, I just saw this in the food store today. That
on the way.
R and the I are merged together. You can look at Pepperidge Farm. The R and the I are merged together. So that's a new one right off the press there. Like things like that, it's so rampant. And of course, that's due with those two things. I mean, that's... And then,
Tom, I agree with you on that. The only...
Yeah.
And it's not really a problem. The only thing that I think it may be a little more to it because the changes seem so deliberate, and and
you're right.
There doesn't seem to be a randomness to it. It seems very, very planned. And then you got these goofballs at CERN who just delight in rubbing your nose in it. I don't know.
You know, I got sidetracked. You're right. It does seem planned because the lowercase t looked like a cross. Now it doesn't look like anything like a cross. It just so happens the King James Bible, the one where all the Christians view as being the most authentic, is now the most altered out of all the versions.
Right. Very
right about that.
2 or 3 months ago, I was talking with Mark Sargent of Flat Earth fame, and we talked about a subject which I think may actually have some merit in this discussion, and that was the existence of the ether, aka ether wind. Basically, the ether, if you're not familiar with it, is this unseen medium by which photons and things can propagate. And Einstein came along and he just said there was no ether, which is something like saying the smiling Cheshire cat, you have the smile but not the cat, or having a wave at the beach with no water. There was a experiment, I believe it was a Michelson-Morley experiment, which sought to determine the rotational speed of the Earth by measuring light going in different directions and its resistance to the ether. And it was a null experiment. It basically demonstrated to their dismay that the Earth was not rotating at all. But after Einstein came with his theory of relativity, he basically threw out the idea of the ether. But in 1913, another physicist whose name escapes me basically proved that the ether did indeed exist. Could the ether be something analogous to a lattice that is part of the simulated reality, a framework, as it were, to make all this stuff feel, give it entity? Question, I guess.
I know what you're saying, but once you get into where the impossible and the possible are on the same playing field, I mean, when you see the supernatural miracles of God, whether today or back to you're walking on water, defies all laws of natural classical physics, and it does. But then, if you think of everything being a simulation, then anything's possible. Like, I love that clip in the movie in The Matrix when Neo goes to the Oracle, and he encounters that kid, and he's looking, and the kid's bending the spoon right in front of him, and the kid says to him, "You can't bend that spoon. That's impossible. Just think that the spoon isn't there." you know? And then when you realize that it doesn't really exist, then bending it's like nothing. And then you can bend it. And that's the truth behind it. So if this is a true simulation, flat Earth, round Earth, whatever you perceive things to be,
doesn't really matter.
Doesn't really matter. And you know, you only have 5 senses that's delivering the quote facts or the data determining that this is real. Okay, that's the only thing you have. Then you have perception, which I always say this now, it's my new term. Perception is reality through that individual. If you perceive it to be real, then it's real. And then get into, I studied placebos, where people have been given a placebo, whether telling them that stress is good, then their bodies react that stress will be a benefit. Or if you tell them stress is a detriment, then their bodies act accordingly. So people have a physical manifestation of what they believe. Then when you get in the book of faith, the Hebrews 11 about faith, you know, it takes faith to move in the supernatural, and it takes natural faith to work. So again, it's more faith, which is focusing on it and believing it. And so it's actually your reality comes from within, what you perceive it. And then you have what's called the law of attraction, which again, all this kind of fits in together as far as the reality is something that, you know, is something that's perceived.
If I might add, like this perception thing, can I speak briefly, real quick on that?
Yes, sir. Sure.
And
all yours, my good man.
We talk about these synchronicities. You know, that's a big Mandela effect subject. We could talk for hours, literally, just on that, and talk about people's different experiences. I had an experience where I was on Facebook and somebody sent me this thing back in May. It said, pour some sugar on May. It was a meme, right? It was a cup of sugar being poured on the month calendar of May. Later that day, I had an experience. Out of millions and billions or whatever amount of songs there are in the world, McDonald's, and they're playing that song, "Pour Some Sugar on Me" by Def Leppard, and that one really got me. Experiences here lately all the time. It's not just a few times here and there. We're talking hit or miss. It's not hit or miss now. It's more targeted. And we think about a person and they show up in our lives. It's almost like stranger than fiction, like a book. And that's strange. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We eat at a restaurant. No, it's like when we met up at Cheddar's. I was thinking of going to Cheddar's, meet Brian there. And then Brian offers, hey, let's go to Cheddar's. I said, wow, man, you know, we got blown away on that moment.
Well, you know, I do. What, Rena?
Brian and I were always like, hey, I noticed this on the Ford logo, or, you know, I saw it too. Like, we just noticed the same thing. And we're just always in sync with each other, like in each other's minds. It's really creepy sometimes. Just like, how did you know that?
And Kyle, I want to tell you, I worked in the drugstore for 7 years, and you have to have a prescription to buy a placebo. The ones that I'm familiar with are called SIBO caps, and they're 2 different colors, and a bottle of them costs about $30 or $40, and they're nothing. I mean, they're just sugar or empty or gelatin or whatever. But you're absolutely right. Medicine has recognized for years the power of suggestion and its effect on the body. And there have been people who have literally died because some type of you know, what is it that they not? Oh my goodness, y'all help me out. The starts with the you know, where they do the stuff in Louisiana and do all the spells. What am I talking about? Huh?
Voodoo, right?
Voodoo. That's not a Z. Voodoo, yeah. And there's been cases where people have had voodoo hexes put on them and that would die at a certain time, and they die. You know, and they die because they believe they would. So
exactly, that goes with the faith. You know, like believing, and you know, believing that's become a reality, and then it gets manifest. I mean, all these great people, you know, they had an idea or something, they believed that they could do it, and then eventually it starts manifesting. That's the reason why you always have to have a goal, a vision for your life. That's something that you see, and as you're believing that and walking through it, it becomes reality. And that's why I also say that this reality is faith-based. It doesn't matter what it is, you know, it's faith-based. That if you have a lot of fear, like you fear, like you get a car accident or something, next thing you know, you get in a car accident. Because fear is the same thing as faith, but faith is working for what you desire. Fear is working for something that you do not want or do not desire. It's the same principle, but you're actually believing it's real when it's not really real yet. You know?
I want to ask y'all, if y'all remember this, excuse me. Well, I got y'all all here. It seems like I reported this about 2 years ago, and this I use as an example, you know, because people are always saying it's ending. Yeah, I think it was about 2 years ago they were missing of nuclear missiles, and I believe it was some fort in Virginia, but they were the EMP variety. In other words, they would do an EMP. And supposedly, and this made the rounds of the internet and supposedly had some minimal news coverage, that two were missing, and each one of the two went on a separate submarine. But the orders were given to shoot those missiles over the United States, a certain area of the United States. He fired and detonated in conjunction the natural solar flare that was due and had gone cyclically at that time for years and years and years. And this was back a couple of years ago, and that the what had happened, and it didn't come to fruition because the commanders of the submarines refused to obey the orders, and the cyclic solar flare did not occur. And to me, that's just an example of God still in charge. And regardless of these evil that may be put against us, God's going to have the last word.
I mean,
that's right.
Whatever's controlling it, whatever happens, He allowed it to happen. But it's worry about. That's all I can say. We got absolutely nothing to worry about.
And we have love. His love conquers all things.
Remember in the very beginning, Paul, when I found out about the Mandela effect, how I was fascinated with it? Well, to me, I kind of enjoy the changes. I love seeing things change. I mean, sometimes it freaks people out, but once you realize that nothing's really solid or static or real, it's like the greatest show on earth. I mean, I don't really watch TV anymore because even documentaries about 911 or the Apollo moon mission or whatever, it's kind of like anticlimactic, because next thing you know, something will change, and that's the greatest show on earth is the Mandela effect. And I enjoy it. And one effect I do enjoy, which kind of is like this: they have like 6 new holes in the face, and I said to myself, what is this? I need this like a hole in the head, with the new 6 changes in the skull, But I just wanted to comment.
I was listening real quick, Tom, to Photo Helix, and he was in that particular video was trying to make a point that you know, don't think this isn't real. It is real. Don't think you're dead because you're not dead, which I agree with.
Yes, I agree.
But I don't know about y'all, but I take great satisfaction in the idea that I am what I always thought I was a spirit being, and this flesh, and as Johnny Cash said, in the 94 Ale song "Hurt," is basically an illusion, as it were, and of no real value. That's comforting to me, you know, because these things are of no real value. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I didn't know you liked Nine Inch Nails. You know.
Oh, well, I like the Johnny Cash cover of "Hurt." I have not even actually heard the Nine Inch Nails version. I just love that was Johnny Cash's last song, and I absolutely love it because he was hurt, buddy. You know, in fact, I talked to the nurse who took care of him the night he died, and she said he was a very humble man. He wanted to be treated just like everybody else. He had the same thing I do, congestive heart failure. You know, he's been through a lot, but I think died 4 months after his wife died.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, really. But yeah, you're right, because we're just only in a suit for X amount of years, then we're going to go on to the true reality after this. So whether, you know, J.C. Penney has an E or doesn't have an extra E on it doesn't really quite matter.
Oh, it never had that. It didn't have that extra E in my reality.
Yeah.
No, it's always,
I think it's important and interesting to find things, but you know, it's to me so good to get away from materialism. You know, I always envision, you know, some OCD steward on the Titanic as it's going down, trying to arrange the lawn furniture on deck because they're OCD as it sinks into the brink. You know, it's, you know, I think there are many more important things, as you and Brian and Rena have pointed out. For one thing, it's people's salvation, and if this may well have the opposite effect that if they are evil intentions who are starting this, have the opposite effect and wake people up to more spirituality, not less. You know, they in the book of, I believe it was Nicodemus, it was a non-canonized book. The gatekeeper of hell got mad at Satan because he said, "You let him kill Jesus, and now he's down here and he's going to free all my enslaved, saintly people." And he was furious with Satan, according to that book. And I can understand that. And I think this whole thing may well, if it is to destruct and demoralize and confuse and to lead people away from truth, I think it may well backfire.
I'm just trying to soak that all in.
Oh.
I think it is going to backfire on the wicked. If I'm along those tangible lines.
Gonna take a headshot.
Yes. And I hopefully some things start changing back so we can have some form of sanity with all of this. Because things have been known to flip, like the Flintstones and Houston, we have a problem, and some of those forth. So some people are very OCD. You know, like you walk into a room and something's out of order, it drives them nuts. And that's how it is with that's how it is, I feel, with the Mandela effect, because once you see something, you cannot unsee it. That's my point.
You know, Rena, I know things have happened to you, and I'll tell you this little story, and it has seemed very minor, and anybody who listens to it would say, oh, that's nothing. I left going to work, and I had gone to feed one of my relatives' pets, and when I got in the car, which I had to unlock, the visor was down, and it kind of blew my mind because I never put the visor down. There would be no reason to have done it, and it's just something I can tell you the times almost that I've done that. I don't. It's a little visor. It doesn't do any good in the sun anyway. You might as well, if it's on the Camaro, you might as well hold your hand up. But I know I didn't do it. I've got another friend, Jim Smith, from the Alabama Vehicle Society. He sits on the side of his bed when he goes to sleep. He takes his right shoe off, then he takes his left shoe off, and then when he gets up in the morning, they're reversed. Things will be missing in the house, and he said they can slap on the table and say something effective, this needs to come back, and leave the room, and many times that will be back. Now that may be some type of spirit, I don't know, but just like I was talking to Brandon and Rick from Blind Rick Productions, and he said that I believe it was Rick said that he and his girlfriend were watching the sky, this beautiful sky, and they're watching this bird, and it's very clear visibility, and they're watching the bird, and suddenly, like you said, Rena, the bird is gone. Talking about that the bird just absolutely, it didn't fall, it didn't go into a cloud, it just wasn't there. So, yeah, things are kind of weird.
It just shows you anything is changeable. That's about it. When they pose a theory about the simulated universe, they boils down to all information. Because matter and energy are interchangeable, like E equals MC squared. So basically what you're dealing with, everything comes down to information. And it's more like a computer simulated program.
Yeah, I definitely believe that. You know, on one level though, now here's something else I wanted to ask you about, and there may not actually be enough time for this. Or did y'all listen to any of Lloyd Pye, P-I-E? I think one of his famous videos is Everything You Think You Know Is Wrong or something like that. And he talks about the origin of man and this type of thing. Are y'all familiar with that?
I'm going to research that for sure.
Well, he goes back into fossil records and basically evidentially shows that Neanderthal, we didn't arise from Neanderthal. We were more or less put together genetically from a group distinct from the Neanderthal as a slave race 250,000 years ago, and that part of our intellect was masked off. In other words, was made unusable to us, and that is why people that are autistic sometimes have very, very high abilities in certain areas, but because genetically they have been allowed to access beyond the normal point that part of their brain that is blocked for the rest of us. And I just wondered what y'all thought about that.
It's basically everybody's got like a piece of the puzzle. So, you know, the autistic or symphonic people, they will heighten in one area, but then the other areas are lacking. Like when you lose your sight, your hearing and your sense of smell and touch are light higher than if you had all your senses.
Well, I think his theory doesn't take away the divinity aspect of it, but it may explain things like, for instance, you would not have a missing link. You would have 20 or 30 missing links in of a progressive nature, because to go from Neanderthal to Homo sapien is way too big a jump for a single entity. But anyway, I thought I'd just throw that in because it kind of, I think if we literally do have untapped powers, be they simulated or not, then that might explain how some people are better able to understand and see and experience, because it's all basically subjective anyway, things like Rena was talking about, seeing someone disappear. Because I'll tell you, hypnotically, if you see something that you don't have a construct for and that you thoroughly believe can't exist, your brain won't let you process that. It just you won't see it. In other words, you would if somebody filter out. Yeah. So you have to be a little bit out of the box to be able to experience some of this. I guess is what I'm getting around to saying.
No, that's exactly true. It's the awareness. It's because you're observing things. Even that alone, like when you know that there is a problem, you're halfway to the answer. It's all in being aware, being observant.
You say you've got to say the word radical Islamist.
Huh?
You say you got to say the word radical Islamist before you find it. No, that's political thing. You know, that was the whole thing with Obama. He would never say radical Islam.
Right.
You know, you got to put a name on it before you can deal with it, basically. Yeah.
Well, that's true, yeah. But, well,
hey, I'm here. I'm here, you guys. I'm here. Paul, I wanted to ask you if you had heard about anything with the foreign language syndrome, because that's been running around a lot. People are waking up with a foreign accent now, and that may be related to Tower of Babel.
I have heard of that in hypnosis sessions where people were supposedly, regressed to past lives, but I've never heard of that.
Yeah, you could find that on Wikipedia. It's a real syndrome. It's going on right now.
Oh wow!
Mm-hmm.
Did y'all want to talk a little bit more? Because it's about time for me to get off the air, and the ball game's gonna come back on.
All right.
Y'all want to hang on, or y'all need to go, or?
I can hang on for another 10 minutes, then I gotta go. But yeah,
okay.
Yeah, same here.
Okay. Well, y'all listening, I thank you for listening. And Brian, I was telling October the 28th, you can actually go, it won't show any inside shots, but you can Google City of Valley, Alabama Community Center and see and do images, and it'll show you a picture of the outside of the facilities and that thing. But did you get maybe it is in Valley, Alabama?
Valley. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Point, Lynette, and Valley all run together, and probably all together. I'm guessing maybe we've outlined there. It's maybe around 20,000 people all together,
wow.
and it's really one unit. Even though part of it's in Georgia, it's really one unit. But it is a very nice facility, and we can expand it out to 200 people.
Yeah.
If we need to.
I'm sure people are thinking in their heads, how much does it cost? It's no charge, right?
It costs nothing.
Nothing to come out. Awesome.
It'll be fun. It'll be great. But anyway, thank y'all for listening. I'm gonna be on the phone with them, so I've got to figure out. Oh, I know what I'm doing. I'm gonna bring this up. Okay, all right. Let me get off here. Oh, wait a minute. What am I doing? All right, wait a minute. I know what I'm doing. Okay, let me see if I did that right. This should be. I should be okay. Okay. Let me see. Yeah, great. Okay, I'm off there.
Oh, okay.
But I'm still on with y'all. So.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Paul.
Sounds great.
Sorry, I didn't talk a lot. My toddler, I didn't mean to have my mic on. I thought I muted it when I was talking to him. So he was like,
Rena, I want to apologize. Just when you were on last time, I was having a lot of trouble hearing you, and I just didn't get enough questions to you, and I felt real bad about that.
No, it's fine.
And
I didn't have good connection probably.
And there was a delay that wasn't there this time, so I know I was listening to Brian last time, and I had started talking, and he was actually saying something which I never picked up at all on this end, so I apologize for that too. But it made me feel real, it made me feel real bad.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
I had a great time.
But this is a really a neat topic. Are any of y'all flat earthers or?
It's a tough subject because it divides a lot of people up in the Mandela world.
Yeah.
But that's actually how I came in. That's how I came into discovering the Mandela effect, was through flat Earth and Nibiru. So I think in a way it has sort of happened. But in the Bible it clearly says on the four corners of the earth, and it talks about the circle of the earth. So I'm led to believe that because that's what's in God's word. Somewhat flat. But I really don't know because I haven't been up there. I want to climb on a very tall tower or go up there and take a selfie, and then I'll be able to tell everybody. Maybe.
Well, let me tell you what I think about the two subjects.
Yeah.
Is the principle of light, and I looked at the time zone of New Brunswick in Canada, and I went all the way down the other end of the plane, which is down Rio de Gardo and Venezuela, Argentina, furthest south and furthest north point are the same thing. So, one day a year in winter time, it's the shortest day up north, but it's the longest day down south and all that. And I saw the two times and how much daylight there is. And then when I took out a picture of the flat Earth map, now the South Pole surrounds the perimeter of the flat Earth. Okay, so those times of daylight and those times of lack of daylight on 6 months intervals between the north and south does not line up with the flat Earth model at all. But it works perfectly 100% with the round Earth model. So just going by that date alone, not looking at NASA, not looking at the Earth curvature calculator, just by that alone, it kind of gives me heavy evidence towards a round Earth when you look at it. Because how is the sun, if you got 16 hours of daylight in Rio de Gardo in the middle of December 21st, okay, then therefore the sun should be shining almost over the whole planet because it's out there on that perimeter. And then vice versa, in the June 21st, then the New Brunswick has like 16 hours of daylight almost. So that should be lighting up the whole north section to be lit up that long too. It just doesn't make sense with the geography of the map. And that's why I'm still going around Earth, because
I'm like you, Tom, from that aspect, because in the flat Earth model, what the sun is and what the moon is, it sounds a little weird. Now, when I see experiments, and this is kind of weird if you've heard this, and they say it's relatively easy to do if you've got one of these little handheld things that you can point and get the temperature. So wait till it's a full moon, and go out and take a piece of metal. It could be a yardstick made out of metal, something that will conduct heat. Shade half of it from the moonlight and leave the other half exposed to the moonlight. Now, you would suspect that since the moon reflects the sun, that the part of the measuring stick or aluminum or whatever you're using to catch the light would be hotter.
Photons, right?
Yeah, it would be hotter, but it's not. It's cooler. In fact, it's like 2 degrees centigrade. Yeah, it's like 4 or 5 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a significant amount, and there's tons of people doing this on YouTube that have gotten the same results. And if that's the case, then it's not a reflective. It's not reflecting. It's self-illuminating, which flat earthers say, and it's producing something that has properties that put out light that is cooler. It is really weird.
That is strange, but then you have to go with a theory of, let's say the Earth is flat and everything else, then the whole constellation, the stars in heaven, they can't be brown planets. Nothing can be really around or whatever, because that just doesn't make sense that the Earth is excluded. Because I believe that God has patterns, like the Fibonacci sequence, like you use trigonometry and everything. Everything has a pattern, a consistency, an order. So if the Earth is flat, then therefore there shouldn't be anything like planets at all revolving around. But if you acknowledge that there's round planets out there, then why is the Earth got to be excluded to be something flat? There has to be consistency throughout.
And that's when Brian was interviewing Ms. Erickson, she mentioned as above, so below. That was also mentioned in the book Land Beyond the Poles, which was written in the early 50s by the son of an Italian explorer who went with Byrd and talked about land going beyond the North and the South Pole, extending as far as 8,000 miles. And he theorized that the reason we see planets, that it is one continuous plane, and actually what you're seeing is a landmass in the distance, but because of the ocular nature of our vision and our telescopes, they appear to be as globules. And it was very interesting because Dr. Phil Valentine pulled that almost verbatim, it seemed like, from the book in one of his speeches when he was talking about it. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that is a flat Earth explanation, that there are no round planets, that it is a visual distortion, and we are on one continuous plane. So, the whole deal with NASA and Kubrick and The Shining and all that stuff, you can't deny The Shining, you can't deny the symbolism of little Danny with his Apollo 11 sweatshirt on, handmade 11 years after the fact, standing up portraying the rocket standing up, going to room 237, which in the book was 217, but it's 237 now because they represented the 237,000 miles to the moon, opening door to this room where everything is fake. Kubrick did a lot of symbolism, not only on the moon landing, but Indians and different other things. But you know, it's fun to speculate anyway. I do, you know, it does get me. Here's the thing that gets me, and you mentioned it, Tom, where there should be an 8-inch drop per mile squared, and all the, I'm not going to say all, but I'll say a vast majority of the laser guiding systems that the military use that go out to 100 miles at straight line, and that would never work on a curved Earth. And scientists' answer to that is, well, gravity affects light. Yeah, but light goes 186,000 miles a second, and within just a teeny fraction of a second, that light would be off the planet. If it was round, gravity would have literally no effect on it, measurable.
Well, you know, you are right, and I wouldn't even have thought of that till you brought it up, but yeah, gravity does bend light, but I don't know to what degree.
Yeah, well, the same degree it does everything else. That's the thing. But light's going so fast. Like I say, it's off the planet before it could drop a tenth of an inch. You know. So that's the big hang up with me is you know, they had this lock in England where they did scientific experiments out for like 30 or 40 miles, and it was just in a straight line, and there was, you know, there was no drop at all. And, you know, I mean, does it really matter if we're in a simulation? Probably not, but it's fun to speculate.
There's one other thing I found kind of funny. You know how these astro projectors are, how they go out and stuff?
Yeah.
One astro projector was talking about the Mandela effect, how things are changing. Then he goes, yeah, and I went up to the outer edges, and he said he saw these 4 Earths merging with the other 4. And he says, by the way, I've seen that the Earth is round. I mean, you know, this is just some guy, but I'm just saying, he's grasping his balls or whatever.
You know,
but like I said, it's that the flat Earth, round Earth. I mean, that is the most #1 topic. If you want to divide up the Mandela community, you just start getting to that, man. And it's bad as the Baptists and the Pentecostals fighting over.
It's like you say, it really does. I'll be honest with you, because we are so subjective and such a part of this programming. It could be it could be a triangle, and if it is programmed for us to experience it as flat or round or whatever, that's the way we'll experience it. I mean, it's no objective real reality to it, and it's there again, it's like rearranging furniture on the Titanic. It's
exactly.
You know,
at least they got musicians, though. That's what counts.
Yeah, but you're right. It's and I tell you, I hate to see, and I'm like Brian. The flat Earth brought me to Mandela, but I hate to see Mandela people at each other's throats and flat Earth people at each other's throats.
Yeah, no.
But what if you're both seeing it correctly? What if you're both seeing it correctly? You know,
that's true too. It could be both realities. You're right, Rena. Both realities can't be correct. Just like getting back to Stairway in Heaven, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Well, you know, even my idea of thinking that subjectively it might be flat. It could subjectively be flat and hollow. It could subjectively flat and hollow and round, because it doesn't matter, because it's all subjective in a programming property of whatever wave of intelligence our constructed brain is processing. It's
Well, one thing we agree on, like in Led Zeppelin's song, all that glitters is gold. So, you know, even though we have differences in different realities, we can focus on the things that we can focus on. And that's where we get unified. That's where we obtain strength, power, and, you know.
Well, I just think this reality is going to be around about as long as God wants it to. And I think me cranking up my wife's 72 Camaro and putting a hole in the ozone is going to, you know, do about as much damage as, you know, to the ozone as us, you know, down here, you know, fighting about something that is inconsequential as far as God's plans goes. I think the thing to do is, you know, like Brian said, wake people up. You know,
exactly. And if you come out there next morning, you find it a different color, you don't have to freak out. You just say, oh, it's just another Mandela change. And everything else remembers it being the way it's changed now forever, you know. That's one good thing. Because you're aware of it, when you see these things changing, you don't freak out. You go, okay, that's what it is. And there you go.
Tom, it's like that phrase that everybody sort of, we all think some things are a certain way or whatever, and that's our belief system. For a long time, I believed it was money that was the root of all evil, but it's actually the love of money that is the root of all evil, and it's how much energy we pour into something. If we pour too much energy into one thing, it's not a good. It takes over us. So we cannot let. Go ahead, Tom.
And speaking of money, Brian, I heard the other day that I think it was one of the Rothschilds had $800 trillion in gold.
Oh my God!
Their private stock of gold, which basically means if they've got that much gold, it isn't worth anything.
You can't take it with you. You can't.
Gold. Let's go ahead and hack it and divide up amongst the whole world. We're all America only needs like 20 trillion, and we're out of debt, man.
You can't take it with you. You can't take it with you to heaven. That's the thing, right?
Well, here is something. I know y'all aren't political, but there again, I'm going with Dr. Valentine, who may have his faults in some areas, but I think he is probably correct on this. He said that basically what you have now with this administration is you have one secret society at war with another secret society, and the previous secret society was more globalistic, where this secret society is more Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson got rid of the central banks, and they're literally at war with each other. And basically, we don't have a dog in the fight. I mean, we'll probably be better off with somebody that can give us jobs and this type of thing. But the point is, it's the real benefactors of the secret societies, not particularly the people they represent.
Right, and see, that's where the cookie crumbles, I should say, right? Because the house divided against itself cannot stand. It says so right there in Scripture.
It'll fall, baby. We'll take the tumble.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it's interesting to watch, and I do think much of politics, we don't really need soap operas because we have politics, and it's so much is theater and so much is. And here's something, and that you said, Brian and Rena and Tom. I think they talk about the big opiate problem. Well, TV is the opiate of the people, and it's the mind-numbing reality, get you out of fix that people fixate on and takes them out of a state where they might actually do some thinking and come to some good conclusions.
People, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to jump off here.
I got to dip too.
But it's just nice talking to you, Paul.
Thank you so much, y'all come back anytime, and I'm gonna get out too, because I got a lady coming in here in a little bit, and Rena, thank you so much, and keep that toddler straight.
Well, let's keep waking people up. Let's go ahead, Rena. Sorry.
Sorry about all the complications earlier.
Oh no, it's fine.
We had the odds against us, but we overcame it together.
Together.
Okay. Thanks a lot. I enjoyed it, y'all.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it, man.
You have a good one.
God bless you, Paul. Thank you.
God bless you all.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Catch up with y'all later. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Love y'all.